What's up, world? What's up, Zion? It's Prince Easy coming at you in this fine Thursday here that we're having. Right? These two big, beautiful moons that we have had the last yesterday and today. Beautiful. Right? Even now, I know the color of the type of moons that become humongous. So, of course, as usual, I do have a couple slides that I want to share with you today. Right? So let's get to them. Right? So this unfolded in DRC, right? And for those who don't understand, basically the government over there suspended 12 political parties. What for, you might ask? Well, as the top piece here says, Joseph Kabila, right, wanted for many, many crimes against the Congolese, is forming a political movement, so to speak, right? Combining all of these efforts, right, of theirs in order to basically, for lack of better words, to make the Tshisekedi's government not functioning properly, right? Because this time they were supposed to rally behind the president, right? Not form as some sort of alternate political movement, right? And for Kenya, for some reason, this is the second time that they hold high-profile Congolese criminals, right? He's the first, right? And then we had a couple months back, this year or the other one, I don't quite remember. We had this character called Colonel Nanga, right? Colonel Nanga, who is a prolific fighter connected to M23, who also hid himself in Kenya for some reason, right? And my suspicion is, that military base over there, that foreign military base over there, needs to go. Needs to go for the sake of Kenya and East Africa as a whole. This is just my opinion. And of course, there are opposing opinions and whatnot, right? Well, that gold do be looking nice, right? And I would even call it the great equalizer when it comes to economics, right? For wealthier nations and even undeveloped or underdeveloped nations, so to speak, right? Yeah, a lot is unfolding, right? Taking lessons from the most advanced democracy. Well, talking about gold, this is the reality, brothers and sisters, right? We have Burkina Faso, Colombia, Tanzania, Brazil, Mali, Indonesia, Peru, South Africa, Uzbekistan, Ghana, Kazakhstan, Mexico, United States, Canada, Australia, Russia, and China. Of course, all of these African nations have the potential to be the largest producer of gold, right? But this matrix is more in line with refining, right? Meaning finished product, right? And as you can see, We're doing great, right? We're doing great. We're up there in the charts, and more push, right? More push. Gold reserves, and of course, the sale, right? And if we were to focus, put a focus even for a short while when it comes to mineral extraction, right? As you can remember, right, the condition was so bad that they had to fence the whole situation, right? Maybe that's the measure that should be, right, looked at after follow-ups have been made pertaining, or rather addressing, the issue of smuggling these said resources out of Africa, right? Or out of anywhere for that matter. So some might say that Tanzania is somehow caught up in a geopolitical whatever, right? Because believe it or not, the copper belt, what is known as the copper belt that extends Zambia and Congo, I suspect it even crosses what do they say, southwest direction of Tanzania. I think there are deposits there, right? But according to the research and what they've discovered, it's there, right? And guess where most of these minerals go? Remember, this is the primary giver of copper to the world, right? And if we were, let's just say it's important, right? It's important in the modern technology. And most of it crosses through Tanzania. So of course, it is in their interests to have this whole region under their control. Right? On top of that, we also have the so-called rare earth minerals, which they have been stealing for a long time until the former president, former to the current one, Magufuli, put a stop to that. Right? And of course, the same people were shook when this when this happened, right? Quite something. Also following up Kenyan politics. Well, I'm fearful of the few years in East Africa, right? Because of these paid actors, you see, as their chosen mode of infiltration into the the southern regions of Africa. Right? And in Kenya, for instance, I'm most fearful of their next elections and how they would turn out. Right? Uganda and Tanzania, when it comes to Uganda, well, who is going to come after Museveni? That's going to be a tricky transitional period, right, for these hooligans to put in their man, right? A good example, that other guy talking about getting rid of Swahili to replace it with French. They are working, even now, they are working, right? And we should get to work. We should get to work, right? Well, look at that. Discussions are being had. There is no black Hebrew Israelites versus Christianity. No. This is something else here, The cognitive dissidence. That's what I think. And most importantly, they haven't really read the scriptures. They have read digests. They have read other opinions of people pertaining to what they regard to be Christianity, or that being in reference to the Bible. They have not really read it. If they would, then they would come up with questions that would need answers, and the lack of these answers would tell them a lot. But it's important, it's good, right, that Christian channels like these are having these conversations, and I bet they're gonna be one-sided. They're gonna be one-sided, right? Because they're gonna consider this as what? And I don't know, a diversion from the true faith. Not the truth, no. Well, Geostorm. It's a movie about what the near future is gonna look like. And let me tell you this, though it is exaggeration, right, but they do tell you stuff, right? When they tell you, even now they're saying, these scientists are saying there's a plasma event, right? And of course, when they say this, that opens up a window for them to even deploy their weapons, right? Because if they're asked, they'll just say, say electrical geostorm can cause, I don't know, crazy weather phenomenon, right? Yeah, you can look up that video yourself. Well, there are those who in the know, right? Like this guy here. He's in the know, right? He's in the know that they want to cause some sort of, like what he said in this video, some sort of Arab Spring in the eastern part of Africa, and it's not going great. And their last campaign was here in Tanzania, right? They did that work, right? All of that chaos that we saw, it's the seed they sow, right? It's a seed they have sown, right? Using personalities and all of these things, right? And here, this is what we're having in Cameroon, right? Like, seriously, it's frightening, and it's just the reality, right? When the Gen Zs or the millennials or whatnot, most of them are not really serious when it comes to handling, right? All they're doing is throwing a tantrum, right? They're throwing a tantrum. They're not really, I don't know, ready for responsibilities and all that, right? So here they are throwing a tantrum again in another country, right? But if you ask them about politics, right, or basically just simple information about their government, right, they'll be illiterate. There's that disconnect, right? There's that disconnect, and if that disconnect exists, then some worms or snakes in the grass might take up that vacuum, right, and cause chaos as they do, Well, there are other political figures, even in Kenya, right, issuing statements like this, right? Now they are exaggerating, right? Just like the other term, we had this discussion, right, when there was a quote-unquote confrontation between Kenya and Tanzania, right? When the Tanzanian government said, you know what, these small businesses, they should be left to Tanzanians, right? Here they are again, They're saying that we are blaming them for the chaos that has happened and we are actively persecuting them and whatnot, right? Which is not true. We don't do that. We have never done that, right? And because we have never done that, some individuals have taken and, I don't know, used it as a, I don't know, a Trojan horse, the whole thing, right? And wreak havoc in our country, you know. This is from DW 15 hours ago. Why are they still going on, as you'll see? Here's the parliament, right? The Kenyans chose you to represent them, but there you are talking about what is happening in another country, right? It's none of your business. You're a paid actor. Please continue spewing your nonsense. Continue, right? This is the modern democracy, right? Of course, if you go online, the most people who are upset, the most upset people are not Tanzanians, actually. Right? There's an awakening happening here in Tanzania, right? There's an awakening, a very strange and powerful awakening, right? And of course, you will also observe that the most people who are upset are not Tanzanians, like I said, but Kenyans. There are medias on top of medias on top of medias on top of media, just throwing, I don't know, wood to the fire, right? They don't know if the fire is dead or not, you know, they're just testing the water, you know, because there is an after to their whole situation. That's why they keep talking about this, right? Security forces in Tanzania accused of targeting foreigners, you know, again, right? For you people outside of Africa, this might be quite convincing, you know, but the biggest tribes in Kenya, right? The Luo, which are Jaluo. But let me say this, the biggest two tribes in Kenya, we do have them here in Tanzania, right? Because again, the borders are artificial, right? So how then, right? How then are we, I don't know, targeting these foreigners, as you say, you know? Of course, their biggest headache was their taking of the L in the informational warfare, right? I'm gonna take this opportunity to say that the execution was flawless, right? In my opinion, in my perspective, right? Internet was the biggest apparatus for them, right? To cause mayhem, right? They had videos of, right? Who is that kid? Logan Paul, right? Running around in Tanzanian streets, you know? If you throw in AI into the mix, yeah, it will be too late after people realize, hey, maybe this video was doctored, right? But at the heat of the moment, it will be exactly that, heat of the moment, right? And the media's execution, flawless. You know, just complete silence, you know? And just the national media, the only one giving out information. Right? Most people might not understand it, but strategically, yeah, that saved us a lot of headache, right? A lot of headache. And what must be also understood is that there is no peace without sacrifice. None, right? Because for a fact, Tanzanians, even the people of Uganda, know that we are married to the political parties, right, that helped us acquire independence, right? We are married. Right? It's a marriage. Right? It's not a marriage of convenience. No, it's a legit marriage. Right? And for a marriage to have peace, sacrifices, or rather compromises, which is indeed a sacrifice of some kind, right, have to be made. Right? That's a lesson, right, that was unlearned. But you know, they're mad, right? They have the ICC thing queued up. What do you think they're gonna do? Say it with me. Sanctions. That's what that's what they're up to, right? Because the first phase was more of a economic attack, you know, cause chaos in all of most of the biggest three cities in Tanzania here, right? Mbeya, Arusha, Dar es Salaam, right? The heart of our economy, right? Two of these places are, one is bordering the northern countries, the other ones are bordering the ocean, like Dar es Salaam, where the ports are, and like what I said, the copper goes through. And of course, we have Mbeya, which is connected to the northern regions of Tanzania, right? Which, of course, economics. We sell food, a lot of food to Kenya, to Malawi, to most of our neighbors, to Congo, right? Even Uganda needs a leg up sometime, you know, because Uganda has been receiving refugees from Sudan, right? And it's a big responsibility, right? It's a big responsibility, right? Because now you have to decide, are these people going to fend for themselves, as in, I don't know, farm for their own food? And what would that mean in their long term, right? So it's a situation they're trying to figure out, right? But they are looking for more of a integration, you know, for these individuals to be integrated into the country, right? To contribute to the economy in whatever way they can, right? Not just to be stuck in these refugee camps, right? Waiting for donations and stuff, right? That's not feasible anymore, because they have shown not care really, right? They would give you bullets and bombs before they give you medication or food, right? That's just the fact of the reality of the life that we are living in. In their scramble, right? They're back at it again. Well, we are going to receive our brother, we are going to bury our brother, right? But we know what happens on October 7th. We know exactly what happened on October 7th, and most likely but again, this does not change anything as far as I'm concerned, right? But again, don't play politics like this, not with the Tanzanians, right? And they call it raids and demolishing. Surrounded. These are the words that they be using. Okay. All right. AU gives an opinion that the elections weren't democratic. Okay. We don't care. A bloody crown. These are the things that keep coming out of Kenya, right? As you can see over there. Again, they are more upset about this whole ordeal than we are. Right? It's crazy, right? Hmm? 200 Hamas fighters trapped, begging for escape, right? Giving that Ukrainian, Russia, right? They call it Putin's war, right? Mirror, right? Guess what Trump did? Of course, he told the Israelis to leave those Hamas fighters alone. You know, he's basically morally superior than Putin with the whole encirclement thing, which the Ukrainians say it is not a real thing, right? They had a Black Hawk and some commandos, everything. They literally broke the encirclement with a few commandos and a Black Hawk chopper. You know, that's what they sold. I'm getting the vibes that Zelensky, he don't really like Ukrainians. He don't really like them. Right? He don't really like them, right? This is the second biggest encirclement in the war, and the reaction is the same from the first encirclement, that big encirclement that happened last year, if I'm not mistaken. Right? The same ordeal. It's like a movie playing over and over, right? Russia comes up and says, please, tell these people to put their weapons down. Right? They ain't no shape to fight whatsoever. It's just a bloodbath and it's pointless at this point, right? Everybody can agree to that. 4 years, right? And of course, their efforts, right? The Russians even say they would take the media, right, into, they would allow them to go into the encircled zone to look for themselves, right? But be careful, you know, if they are droning civilians and white flags, so the media should watch out, like legit, should watch out, right? I'm even starting to think that it might not be a good idea, right? Unless, as you said, a confrontation, right? Which again, we know for a fact they would spin and say, you know what? That was a Russian thing, right? The Russians struck these people in fear. It's not beneath them, and we know this, and we should be not naive of this. And of course, other bot channels have tried to make connections, right? Pitting states and all of this, you know. They are copying the Russians, but it won't have the same results. Believe me, you. Right? Believe me, you. Well, Germany. Apparently, that is human blood that was used. It's from the heart, I guess. This UN chief here, right, this is nonsense, right? When we are ready to have a serious conversation about what has been unfolding all over the world, right, which people have been trying hard to explain away as some sort of natural phenomenon they call global warming, right? And they have completely taken the weaponization of weather out of the equation completely. It is scary to behold. Let's just say that. Right? Really scary to behold. Well, this is what this is about, right? They are convinced. They have been able to convince people that we have a problem, and they already already have the solution lined up, right? They call it salt particulates, right? Salt particulates, right? As they demonstrate here, aircraft release fine salt particles into the clouds, right? These particles help water vapor condense, increasing the chance of precipitation. Rainfall helps trap and wash down airborne pollutants. How about that? Right? This is like a solution, right? It's like a whole solution, you know. All they have to do is just go there up in the Amazon and find that fake ass prince, right? Who will be planting trees up in there in the Amazon, you know. They should have gotten Jojo, you know. That was a whole classic thing, you know, when he just finished talking to the people and just turn around and start walking to the bushes, you know. Meticulously, you know. But this time, you know, they have that Prince Andrew guy, you know. Before they went to war, was it during the war of Ukraine or after the war of Ukraine, or before, I mean, right? Where he was in a whole army chopper, you know, just posturing, you know. You know. So again, like I said, the only way they get their way is if you fall for the nonsense, right? Most of these big events that we are seeing in the world today, right? Like all of the so-called storms that have struck, especially here in Tanzania for a couple times, right? Or what we are seeing happening, right, in right, like right now Elon Musk is like the new Bill Gates, you know, talking about weather control. It's gonna be handled by AI and all of this talk, you know. They're doing it, right? And your consent is important, right? Because if something goes wrong, that takes away responsibility from them, and something is bound to go wrong, right? Because everything here is a science, right? They don't say how the salts help the thing to condense, you know. They just, no, they don't say that, right? But it's a whole technology, and I think I've done videos talking about, say, technologies and how they work, right? Basically, it involves satellites, ground bases, and of course, aircraft. Right? It's a whole weaponry, right? And they are deploying it out in the public in the guise of, I don't know, you know, just like how they are deploying space weapons under the guise of space exploration, right? Or, I don't know, combating asteroids, right? We have this 31 or 31st Atlas coming our way. You know, some people have even come up with suggestions that, you know, we should be working on putting nukes to nuke this, you know, for various reasons. Why? They say these asteroids sometimes have resources in them, right? So there could be, yeah, it goes on and on and on and on and on, right? This world is full of nonsense, right? But tough luck. We have had deep scientific conversations, right, about weather modifications and whether the weapon and how to counter, say, weapon, right? All in the ions, right? All in the ions, right? All, even also their catastrophe. If they continue like this, it's gonna come from plasma, basically. Maybe they want that, you know. if they are spending billions and billions of their money to cause, or rather to force Putin, right? Not Russia, Putin, into World War III, you know? They're spending all of this money for that particular purpose. So do you think they're not working on other prospects, right? Including shooting our own selves in the foot by using weather modification. Right? These things are dangerous and unpredictable, right? Because there is a natural system out there, right? And they do not have the power to control, right? Even the scriptures mock these people, right? They don't know how even big how big the earth is. They don't know how deep the ocean is, and yet they think themselves to be God, right? Being able to control when the sun and the moon comes up, and no, right? No. So these attempts that they have all of these things planned out, yeah, they're gonna backfire catastrophically, right? Catastrophically, right? Because again, it is breaking of the law of the Almighty, of the Creator, right? And the only way we fight back is eradicating their mistake, or rather their attack, right? In many, many various ways possible, right? I don't know if I mentioned this, but the two storms which struck over there, where it was in Nigeria, and then after that Mali. I don't know if it was Burkina Faso, Niger. I don't quite remember. Remember those? Was it, I don't know, last year or this year, early? Yeah, right. All of the storms that have hit Kenya, right? Yeah. What they're not telling you is that, for instance, what happens when, under normal circumstances, there is condensation there, right? And rain and clouds gather up, and still you come in with the aircraft and your salts, quote unquote. What happens then? Storms, right? Storms. It's a whole electric thing. It's a whole electric thing, right? That they think themselves to be, again, Lucifer. He's a power of the air, right? That was his angelic role, right? So of course he has knowledge, right? He is not performing that role anymore. Another angel has taken his place. So yeah, all we have is knowledge, prince of the air. France's failure in Mali threatened the world. Trump's Nigeria obsession distracts from the real Al-Qaeda crisis in the Sahel. You know, look at this scathing, this Bobby Gosh guy, a geopolitical analyst and commentator, formerly Time Magazine and Bloomberg. That should tell you a lot, or everything that you need to know about this idiot here. You know? Look at this. They shouldn't even be in a G's. Right? You cannot be refusing to come out here in America. You know, I know it's gonna be something out there. I know for a fact it's gonna be something big and ridiculous at this meeting, you know. Well, you can look it up yourself, right? For whoever think it's healthy. Right? Why? Lack of understanding. You know what? They don't know what hair is and how hair works. All I can say is this: your hair is part or rather an extension of your nervous system, right? It is an extension of your nervous system. It's electric. But hey, there are many fronts to this attack, right? It can be the same time electric, it can be the same time biological, it can be at the same time chemical, right? So yeah, as you can see, the world is going mad. One side of it anyway. The other one is quite sensible and actually making incredible progress on all fronts, while the other side is just, I don't know, death and division and destruction. And I don't know, some executive decisions are going to be made in the future, right? If this continues. That's just the reality. Because what if their distractions are made obsolete, they have become irrelevant? They'll do what the Gen Zs are doing, right? Throw a tantrum, right? That's what we have with Kaya Kalas and that other woman that I don't know, how can you be that old and be that stupid? I can't even, I can't. I can't imagine, right? The president of the EU. How can you be so old and so unwise? These things do not go together unless you are living in a delusion, right? If you are living in a delusion, that will be a, a blockage of some kind. Okay, to round up this video here, listen. Here in the United States, one of the people in attendance at this secret meeting was Judith Varney Shore. She's a former Israeli consul general who was operating out of Atlanta. She was one of the main people saying that the biggest problem that they had was young black people in the United States. But don't worry, they've got some black leaders on the payroll. The major problem with Israel is with the young generation of the black community. The problem with Israel is with the young generation of the black community. Black is with the young generation of the black community. This was an Israeli government official who was saying this, not some low-level operative or some rogue member of their diplomatic corps. This was a senior member of their administrative government who was saying this on American soil. Their biggest problem wasn't Hamas or Hezbollah or the Palestinian Authority or Syria or even Iran. She said that Israel's biggest problem was young black people in the United States. The major community which causes us some problems is the black community. What we are doing is Ruben asked me to focus on that is basically it starts with engagement. We are not too big of a consulate, but we are very strong. Engagement means I had last week a dinner, sit-down dinner at my house for 40 people, which are considered the leadership of the black community. And they were coming from lots of walks of lives, in academic, politics, police, airport. Well, that's enough of that. Right? So you've heard it yourself. Right? Don't just say, oh, easy, you done made this up, oh, these people are this and that, la 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 la. Yeah. And why? You might ask yourself, why are they targeting. They are at the top of the pyramid, right? That is clear now. Just like the scripture said, right? They are at the top of the pyramid, right? And we as melanated people, right? We as the black people, we are somewhere at the bottom of the pyramid, right? And somehow we are the biggest problem to them. How? Well, if you've been around, then you would know that because they are Israelites, right? Because they are Israelites, and that connects them directly to Africa, and that's why Netanyahu just come out here and say, after we are done in the Middle East, we are gonna come and rescue Africa. Yeah, and we are feeling that rescuing, right? From the Tigray War to the chaos in Kenya, the chaos in Uganda, the chaos in Tanzania, and it's gonna go on and on and on and until people wake the hell up. That's just the truth, brothers and sisters. Well, I think this video here is wrong enough. So yeah, they go mad. Last I heard, madness is not an infectious disease. Stay sharp, head on a swivel, yeah? Protect each other. Is that too much to ask? Yeah, we shall find out, won't we? Prince Easy signing out. Love you. Bye.